All right, you never know who you're going to see walking by the tables here at Media Row. Walking by is candidate for United States Congress, Blake Masters. Thanks for doing this, man. It's always good to see you.
Always good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
So let's talk about the campaign and let's talk about what's happening. Let's start with the big word that everybody's using right now is unity. There has been, obviously, there's no secret here. This has been a contentious primary for you guys. A lot of candidates in this race, in that primary. A lot of really good people in this race. Are you going to be able to, whoever comes out of this primary, unify the party behind that candidate to win the district?
100%. Yeah, no doubt about that. Look, I think I'm the best candidate. I think I'm the guy for the job. So I'm happy to work hard and try to win. But I will say whoever wins, I will pray for their success. I will help them. They won't need much help personally because this is such a Republican district, right? Arizona's 8th district. Whoever wins the primary is going to be the next congressman for the district. But whether that's me or Abe Hamadeh or one of the other guys, I think our job really, as soon as we pass the post here July 30th and win the primary, is to do everything we can to help win that Senate seat back, right? Carrie's probably going to be the nominee, and I think she's a pretty incredible nominee. And we got to keep the communist Ruben Gallego out of the Senate, so we'll be raising money for her, trying to help her, trying to just help President Trump and spread that message so we can get the red wave in November that we really needed, but didn't get in November of 22.
So then what did you learn from the campaign when you just brought up 22? What did you take with you from 2022 that makes you a better candidate in 2024?
A lot of it is just the reps, honestly. I feel like I'm more in stride now and just better at communicating both mass media and with voters. You learn so much as a candidate. You learn so much when you practice anything, right? There are some concrete lessons I learned that aren't as applicable because, of course, I ran a right-wing primary last time, but then a tough general election. Well, again, there's no tough general election in this congressional race, right? But one thing I learned is we as a party, as Republicans, need to embrace early voting, at least as long as those laws are on the books, right? One mistake that we made was telling everybody to wait and vote on Election Day in 2022. And I understand why, and I wish we actually tightened it up and had more of a one-day, one-vote regime instead of this month-long election season. But you can't telegraph to your adversaries, hey, we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket. And then if you do that, just don't be terribly surprised when the machines don't work in Maricopa County on Election Day, right? So I think we're all preaching the gospel of early voting now, or just vote however you want. But in person, early in person, put your mail-in ballot in. Actually, if you do that, candidates will stop spamming you with texts. We'll take you off the list, so it actually helps everybody. But when we really get early voting going in October and November in this general election, I think it can make all the difference in terms of winning these tough seats like the U.S. Senate seat.
All right, so a two-part question for your district is, number one is, what are the biggest issues that you believe are important to that district? And secondly, what makes you the most qualified person to then fix those issues or work on those issues if you win the race?
Great question. I mean, number one and number two would be a close second, would be stopping illegal immigration is first, and stopping Biden's inflation is second. Stopping illegal immigration is my signature issue. It is more than any other issue why I'm running. I've got 4 little kids. They're 10, 8, 6, and then 7 months old. 10, 8, 4, and 7 months old. And I really, in some sense, they're relatively, privileged, and I've done well in business, and that's great. But, man, they are still on track to grow up in a country that doesn't work and isn't as safe as the one I grew up in Arizona in the 90s, right? And your kids and grandkids, too, and everybody listening. Like, our children are literally less safe because Joe Biden chose to open the border and welcome 10 or 12 million illegals. Some of them are maybe good people. They're still committing immigration crimes. I still think they should be deported. But some of them are not good people. Venezuelan gangbangers, Ecuadorian thugs that are literally strangling some of our young Americans. And I'm tired of that. So I want to make America safe again. I think the correct amount of illegal immigration is 0. I think I spend far more time talking about this issue than any other candidate. I've called illegal immigration a cancer, which I actually think is, some people say it's too hardcore. I think it's a good metaphor because if you let 10, 20, 30 million illegals just stay here, and then we have the anchor baby citizenship laws where, you get birthright citizenship, and all of a sudden the left is changing the electorate by opening the floodgates, and they're trying to make it so that we can't elect any more Republicans. I really do think that's what's going on. I think if people like me don't go into Congress and help President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance soon put a stop to this, we're not going to have a country anymore. So that's by far my number one issue.
So then how do you get Congress to act? Because one of the biggest frustrations from the American people, we understand the policy changes. It comes from the top. President Biden's not going to change the policies, and that may change, or that will change in January if President Trump retakes the White House. But we do need legislative change. We need to secure the border with legislation, and we need an immigration system America can be proud of. How do you champion or be a part of a coalition that makes that happen when we haven't seen it in so long?
I think one thing I'm going to do in the House that most congressmen don't is I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be a bulldog for this Trump-Vance agenda. We need to deport lots of people. Okay, there's no gentle way to say that. People say, oh, it's so unkind. It's like, no, what's unkind is Joe Biden throwing our border open and the status quo. That's unkind. We need to deport millions and millions of people. It's right there in the Republican Party platform, right, which calls for the biggest deportation operation in history. I will say Republicans agree with this. A lot of independents and centrists agree with this, but there are still some people in the middle who decide swing elections who might find that distasteful, who need to be persuaded. And so one of my jobs in Congress is going to be to go and use that pulpit and really tap into the cultural power of the office to help convince America, like, we need to do this. We needed to do it 5 years ago. Unfortunately, we got President Joe Biden installed in the office. We could talk about that, but a lot of damage has been done. The question is whether it's too late. We need to deport millions and millions of people, and we need to build the consensus that's not only not cruel, failure to do that is what's cruel. And I think I can be a very effective messenger for the Trump-Vance agenda in that respect.
We're getting the wave. You have somewhere else you must be. So I appreciate the time today.
Well, I'm going to come back and see you, and you'll have me again soon.
I appreciate that very much. Blake Masters, candidate for United States Congress. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Catch up on Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast, and click the button in the middle to subscribe.